Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Parenting by the Pint.
Hey, welcome back.
So today, like every other week, we're going to feature a brewery and we're going to talk about a topic. We've been kind of straying away from talking about like children-related topics lately. I think that's okay. I mean, grown-ups listen to this podcast, so let's talk about grown-up stuff once in a while. Yeah. But today we're going to talk about Tangled Roots Brewing, which is in Ottawa, Illinois, which my family actually visited their brew pub in Ottawa when we visited Starved Rock, which is a very popular like Illinois state park. I like to think it's popular for people falling and dying.
I don't know how many have actually done that, but there have been a few. We actually, this totally has nothing to do with
Everyone's
this.
got this story.
No, we watched, there was a documentary about a murder at Starved Rock long ago, and the guy who was accused and was put in jail for the murders of, I think, these 3 women, was released on parole last year after, like, there's a ton of evidence that didn't jive and these things.
Really?
And the prosecutor just passed away a couple of years ago, and the prosecutor or the attorney's son is the one who did the documentary.
Oh my goodness.
And we watched it, and he's like not 100% convinced that the guy is innocent or guilty. And
I love that.
It was I mean, it was kitschy, but it was interesting. Plus it was places that we know, you know. So we just watched this like last month. Like it was recent.
So great. I like watching murder documentaries.
Yeah, I'm
you
a
guys.
fan.
That's
I also
totally
enjoy
my
them.
thing. But yes, Starved Rock State Park. I feel like I have a very skewed view of this specific state park because growing up there was just like very isolated stories, rarely, about somebody like falling off a cliff and dying. It happened like twice in my childhood.
Yeah. Not often,
No.
but it did happen. We can't say it never did.
And so I have grown very paranoid about this place. And a couple years back, my husband wanted us to go there with the kids. And my kids are wild, not like poorly behaved wild.
Right,
but they run around and jump off of things and they play fight with each other and they goof
something
off.
with a big drop off is not maybe the safest place.
And I was just like extremely against the idea of going to this place with my kids. I was like, they will fall and die. One of them will push the other one off a cliff and we will have 1 child instead of 2. And that wasn't my plan. The plan was 2, at least 2. And now we have to start over.
And you're like,
and we lost somebody. So
that was the fear. I totally get it. That's my fear of going to the Grand Canyon. I'm afraid somebody's going to fall over. I 100% have that fear.
I should be talking about fears. I think we did that before. But
I think we did. But I'm on the same page with that. Yeah.
I saw a picture at the Grand Canyon where it's this tree and the tree is like growing off the edge of the cliff.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like literally like
sideways.
Like sideways over the canyon.
Oh,
and all I could think about was like my kid would be the kid who would like climb out on that tree.
Right, exactly.
And die.
That's literally like, this is my fear.
Yeah.
So.
And people have fallen into the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
We're not doing that. That's also not going to happen.
So Starved Rock. Okay.
I might not even be able to control my emotions if like my kids someday decide they're going to take their kids. I might be like, no, don't do that. That's how strongly I feel about it.
Starved Rock is nothing compared to the Grand Canyon, but there are steep drop-offs and people have fallen and died. So
yes. And it's funny that we're talking about like we have these convictions about these places because we're going to talk about our convictions. We're going to talk about philosophies and beliefs and who we cheer for in sports. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. And before we do, we're going to drink our first Tangled Roots beer, and Lauren's going to share all the fun facts about this brewery that isn't related to murder, hopefully.
No, we don't think so. So Tangled Roots Brewing, we're drinking Devil's Paintbox IPA. I've been told that they brewed this in the West Coast style, even though it just says IPA. So
okay,
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told. So
okay,
I actually picked these up at one of their other locations in the town next to us when I went to lunch there one day, and was like, we should drink this. So all right, Tangled Roots, they are based out of Ottawa. They opened their doors in 2016. They're in Starved Rock country. They say that they're a farm to foam beer.
Oh, I like that saying. That's good.
Farm to foam. Yeah, they are one of the few breweries nationwide that actually grow all of their own hops and barley. They have the largest hop farm in Illinois. In Ottawa, they do grow their hops and barley right there. Cool. One of their beers is called 4188. That is the actual coordinates of that in Ottawa.
Nice.
So their head brewer, there was an interview with him, and it said, the roots, why Tangled Roots? This is kind of on some of their website and stuff. The roots may be tangled, but the dream is one and the same. But he said it really represents that the brewery came about from people who came from all different roots, different places, but they intertwined because of beer. So the two owners, Scott and Keith, that actually were founded, I don't know who the owners are now, they probably expanded a bit, but the two founders, Scott and Keith, were just in the food and beverage industry in various capacities for 15, 20 years, a long time. So they've kind of been all over different projects. Scott helped design one of the John Barleycorns downtown many, many years ago. Keith worked for various capacities of what is now AB InBev. So like they've been in the industry for a long time.
Okay.
Before they started thinking, well, let's open this. They started looking at places in Chicago and like the Fulton Market area, and they wound up down in Ottawa. I'm not sure exactly how they wound up in Ottawa, but there really wasn't this down in Ottawa. I mean, we've both been to their brew pub down there, and there's not much competition down there.
No, not really.
And I'm guessing they probably maybe they got the building for a good deal. The building they're actually in is a 10,000 square foot, 2-level loft, and it was an old theater built in the 1800s.
Okay.
So it's a historic building, and that's where the actual brewery is, and in the little side place next door is what is the brew pub, which is called the Lone Buffalo.
Right.
So they're kind of, I reference them as one and the same, even though they're technically brewery, brew pub, but their food is very good. They partner with local farms for really everything. So even their meat and stuff comes from Slagle Farms, and they're a very local, like their slogan, farm to foam, but also farm to table in terms of what their food is as well.
Yeah, we ate a meal there, and it was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there a couple years ago. My husband and I took the motorcycle out and went for a ride down there because it's very pretty, and then stopped there for lunch. And we've never had a bad meal there. So there's that. And since then, they have opened 3 more locations. So they're up to 4 with a 5th planned.
Wow.
So they have Tangled Roots and Lone Buffalo down in Ottawa. They have Lock and Mule, which is the one in Lockport, which is right by me. So I've been there. We were there like the week after they opened. The guy that I met, which I didn't realize is the owner, is Scott. He gave me his business card. Like, we met him. He was very nice. Had no clue until literally I researched for the podcast that he was the founder of it.
Oh my goodness, really?
I had no clue.
That's so funny. You should email him.
No idea. Yeah, I have his email. But I had no idea that he was one of the ones that founded the actual Tangled Roots, because he was up here doing, probably the opening for Lock and Mule, and was very friendly and whatnot, and I had no idea what his role was. I want to say he had something else on his business card. I'm sure he didn't founder. He probably had like COO or something like that. But
I always joke that my brother is out of business cards for our business, and I always joke that I'm going to put on his next set of business cards assistant to the vice president, and then put on my business cards vice president.
Nice.
And see how long it takes him to notice,
To realize
or
that's what it
customers
says,
to notice.
right? Somebody to notice. That's awesome. I like that. But yeah, I might have to dig out Scott's business card. So then there's Keg and Kernel in DeKalb and Hangar 2 in Glenview, and then the Rocket is planned for LaSalle, which is also kind of down near the Ottawa area,
Yes.
not too far.
Okay.
So they're opening a second location down there. So they've grown a ton.
Yeah,
They've got
seriously.
great business. Their food's really good. They don't really distribute their beer, so I had to go and buy their beer at the restaurant.
Sure.
And I haven't seen it in any stores, so
no.
I haven't seen it distributed anywhere. So I know there was a law passed within the last couple of years that, or maybe it was taken away, but there was an old law that said you couldn't move alcohol from one of your locations to another location unless it was through a distributor, and that law has since changed.
Oh, thank goodness.
So they probably don't need a distributor, so I'm guessing they haven't really, ventured into that area yet. But they may, who knows. So anyways, that's a little bit about Tangled Roots, but
Cool.
let's
drink
talk about the Devil's Paint Box.
Devil's Paint Box IPA. See if it has West Coast leanings.
A little. Not a straight up West Coast, though.
I was going to say, it doesn't really have an aroma, a strong enough aroma for me to get West Coast from the smell.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say... I know, you're a big West Coast IPA. This is kind of your style, in my opinion. You seem to really connect with West Coast IPAs.
I do really like it. It definitely has maybe the spirit of it, but I don't think that it's more subdued
I was
than a
going to
normal
say, it's
West
not
Coast.
quite as crisp and
Yes.
refreshing,
Yep.
and that's what you
Yep.
get from a West Coast a lot of times. Like, for example, Miskatonic makes that beer called West Coast Wizard,
Yep.
which is a very classic, like,
Yeah, that's a straight
West
up
Coast
West
IPA.
Coast. Yep.
And I know it's not like the poster child of West Coast IPA,
No,
but in
it's-
terms of the style, it's very true to the style, and it's very loyal to that. And this is close. I would say this resembles
Yes,
a West Coast
it
IPA.
does. It's got the spirit of it. Like I said, I think it's just a little bit more subdued than what you would think of as a West Coast IPA. It doesn't market it as a West Coast IPA, but I was definitely...
That's kind of what people were saying, was that it leaned that direction.
Yeah. So it was, but yeah, and it's got a little bit different flavor than a regular IPA. It's got a little bit more of the grapefruitiness, I think, to it.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit it's a little bit more subdued than a regular West Coast, but it's good for an IPA. I mean, it's still got that hoppiness. It's still got a little bit of a grapefruit flavor to it.
It's got a little of that bitter, zing that you get from a regular
It's got a little bit of
IPA.
citrus, a little bit of sweetness. I don't get much aroma though.
That's what I was saying. I just tried to smell this beer, and I was just like, okay, so we drank a peanut butter beer not long ago, and that beer I could smell from a mile away. But something like this, and sometimes that's style, and sometimes that's just the beer, the specific one you're drinking.
Yeah.
This one just doesn't have a huge aroma, and I think for me, sometimes that's not a good sign.
Fair.
This tastes good. I like this beer.
I like the beer. Yeah, I definitely like the beer. I'm not
do
against
like
that.
A healthy aroma on a beer. And
I
sometimes
agree.
I have a hard time enjoying stuff that doesn't have a nice aroma.
Yeah, I know. I'm always, that's the first impression I get from, not just beer, but a lot of drinks is what it smells like. We went out to dinner not too long ago, and you guys drank some scotch. The first thing I do is I smell it. Like, that's just the first thing that, it's just the first thing that you do. So, so minus that, I think the taste is good. I'm missing a little bit of the aroma. So Devil's Paint Box. So there's part of Matheson State Park, which is right next to Starved Rock in that same area. That's an area that there's some high iron content in the groundwater, and so that's where the Devil's Paint Box, it's like the colors of the landscape.
Oh, okay.
That whatever that kind of liquid touches stains to
Okay,
things. So
okay.
but the actual area of that state park is referred to as the Devil's Paint Box. So I'm assuming that this is in reference to that based off of the location that it is in. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Let's see. Here we go. It actually says on the can.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay.
Complex hops and bright flavors brewed in the spirit of the beautiful colored rocks found at the Devil's Paint Box in Starved Rock, Illinois.
Okay.
So it says Starved Rock, Illinois, but you said Matheson.
It's Matheson.
It's probably, yeah.
It's literally right next door. So it is.
People know Starved Rock.
People know
so.
Starved Rock, and they often refer to it as like Starved Rock Country because
Yes.
all of the other state parks that are there are smaller than.
Well, and it says Starved
So-
Rock, Illinois, which is not even like saying
Not even a
Starved Rock
town.
State
Yeah.
Park. Starved Rock is not a town. No.
So that area, I can
Right.
understand. That's what it's known for. So yeah, so that's what that is in reference to. But this is it's a good IPA.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a little subdued for my West Coast taste. If I wouldn't have been told that, I might have gotten a different,
Yeah.
impression.
That's why we try really hard not to do that. You know,
I know.
Try not to drink stuff we've had before if
Yeah.
we can, which
For sure.
isn't always the case. But
Yeah.
But then when we do drink something new, I try really hard to avoid learning too much about the brewery
Yeah.
or the beer
Yeah, fair.
if I don't already know anything. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, like I think I went, so when me and my husband went for lunch, I was getting a flight, and they were out of 2 of the beers that I wanted.
Oh.
And I said, I had picked like a double IPA. They were out of that. I picked a different West Coast IPA that specifically said it was a West Coast style
Sure.
IPA. They were out of both of those. And I said,
Oh.
okay, just give me something, comparable.
Yeah,
like whatever.
something good, whatever.
Yeah, and so the person, the waitress said, okay, well, this is similar to the West Coast.
Oh.
So that's why I was like, okay. And I didn't try it at lunch. So I figured I'd pick it up and see.
I see.
So I would say that it may have the little spirit of it, but it's definitely not a West Coast style. It's just a flat out IPA.
Agreed.
Maybe she was just trying to sell it to me since they were out of their West
Yeah,
Coast.
she didn't know
so-
that you were going to call her bluff.
Right? She didn't think that I actually knew the different styles of beer.
It's
That
like-
actually does happen somewhat frequently.
Well,
so.
I was going to say, it's like when you watch that show Parks and Recreation and the one character is a woodworker and he goes to the hardware store. And the guy is like, is there anything I can help you with? And he interrupts him and goes, I know more than you.
Yeah.
And I have to make that joke pretty often. My husband and I talk about it a lot because he works for a very large liquor store chain. And there used to be a time where I would go in there and I would get kind of treated disrespectfully because I'm a woman and I don't know
Totally fair.
anything about beer.
Yep.
And now when I go in there, I usually just wave people away. I'm just like, no, don't help me. I don't need your help.
Need you. Yeah.
But when they do try to help me every once in a while, they'll be like, oh, do you like, and then they name something super common,
Oh, gosh.
and I'll be like, it's fine. And then they go into their little spiel about how I should try other things. And I'm like, yeah, I've tried all those things.
Yeah.
I've had all of that.
I've had literally all of those things.
I knew what
so-
I was buying before I got here.
Yeah, so
you don't
no.
have to tell me.
The people do that to me when I go to not the same location, but the liquor store, and I walk through the bourbon aisle. And not that I know a lot about bourbon, but I know more than most of the people that have tried to help me.
Yeah.
So when I'm like, oh, I'm looking for something with this, and this, and they kind of stare at me and they're like, here, this Old Forester we just got in is good. And I was like,
Nah,
yeah, I've had all
yeah.
6 of those. That's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I know what
But-
you mean.
But
However.
yeah, this is still a good beer. It's just different than what I was expecting. So
Yes.
let's continue on.
So we're talking about what we know and what we feel strongly about, and
Yes.
that's kind of the direction we're going to go. Hopefully, we're going to take it to a very safe, peaceful place.
Yes, I
because
think
that's
so.
the goal. And I think what I want to focus on. So we're going to talk about beliefs and philosophies and ideology and stuff like that, and in the sense of, do these alter our friendships with people? Do these get in the way of friendships,
Yes.
relationships of any kind? I would go so far as to say that some of the things that I believe or support or whatever might get in the way or get involved in my relationships with acquaintances, not just friends.
Sure.
For example, my first example will be a super lighthearted, low-key level of
right.
ideology. I am a Green Bay Packers fan.
That you are.
I cheer for this football team, but I live in a suburb of Chicago. So I run into a lot of hostility.
Fair.
Bears fans hate the Packers. They hate Packers fans. As a Packers fan, I don't really feel anything for the Bears or Bears fans, but I'm cool with the hatred thing. That's fine. I think that makes them dislike me even more because I'm so indifferent.
Yeah. You're like,
but
it's fine, we're cool.
What I have discovered is that because my kids are going to a school in a suburb, I guess you could call Bolingbrook a suburb of Chicago. Most people probably from the city would never say that about Bolingbrook.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
let's say it is. Let's say it is.
I don't know where else it would be a suburb of.
Let's say the people from the town generally cheer for Chicago sports teams.
That's
because
accurate.
I think that's true. They're not cheering for St. Louis. They're not cheering for Indianapolis.
No.
They're not cheering for Milwaukee or certainly not Green Bay. Right. I can tell you that.
Yes. Generally speaking, in our area, we're in the southwest suburbs.
You're getting a lot of Chicago team fans. So, with that information, my kids go to school and they interact with a lot of Bears fans, including their teachers. And I used to kind of make little comments. There were a couple of teachers that were pretty hardcore Bears fans and knew my husband and I were Packers fans and would like subtly influence my children. And because my children, you know how kids are with teachers, they like trust them.
Right. Yes.
And they believe them, which is fine, even when they're wrong, like this. And as a result, my kids started to become Bears fans. At one point, my little one, when he was in kindergarten, went to school one day, and the teacher sent me a photo of him.
I remember this.
Wearing a Bears jersey, along with some classmates who were also wearing Bears jerseys. And I commented on the photo and asked why my son was wearing a trash bag at school. And then took it down because I decided not to start an argument over nothing. And I want to use that as an example for me saying that while I care about the team and I enjoy watching the sport and everything like that, I would never start a fight over it. No. I don't feel that way about football. It's a game. I've watched my team specifically have disappointing losses, and I've watched people who don't cheer for that team get joy from my team losing. They seem to get more enjoyment out of that than they do their own team winning.
Well, that's because the Bears aren't any good. So, I mean,
I didn't say that.
I know. I did. I can. It's true.
But I tend to notice that, like, for example, when the Packers have lost a playoff game or something like that, Bears fans will come out of the woodwork to celebrate this victory.
Which isn't even a victory.
It bothers me a tiny bit because part of me is sort of like, you don't actually care about this. You're just excited that somebody else cares about it. Like, that's part of me is sort of like, you're celebrating other people's misery.
And you really shouldn't, generally speaking, want to celebrate other people's misery.
I go very far out of my way not to gloat, especially about sports outcomes, because I believe in karma, first of all. And secondly, I feel like the moment that I celebrate something good,
something bad's going to come.
Something bad's going to happen. Just because my team beat your team this week, next week my star player is going to break his collarbone. Yep. And I'm going to be like, see, that victory means nothing now because our whole season
the rest
is
of the
over.
Season's done. Yep.
So I just don't do that stuff.
Yeah.
And the same attitude for me carries over in a lot of philosophies.
That's fair.
I don't necessarily not have opinions about things.
I have opinions about lots of things.
I do have opinions about a lot of things. Some of them are beer, and some of them are children and parenting.
All kinds of things, yeah.
Some of them are sports. Some of them are politically motivated. I have very strong opinions about all of those things. Yeah. But my attitude when it comes to, especially like political stuff, for me, political philosophies for the most part are kind of a personal choice.
Yes.
So when you believe something, I would assume that for the most part you believe that because of how it impacts you personally.
Yes.
And a lot of people, and our parents' generation is notorious for this because they're all kind of the same person. They're all, they got married, they had kids, they bought a home, they worked at the same job for 40 years.
Yep.
Like,
yes, all of those things.
Generation is all kind of the same. And our generation is starting to be different from that. Not quite as different as like people younger than us who
People
are
younger
even
than
more,
us are very much more, but
vastly.
we're moving towards that. So there's definitely things that we differ from than our parents, and I think that a lot of those are our ideologies.
Yes. And I like to think that it is my hope that because as a generation, we're pretty diverse in mindset and philosophy and attitude, that we also allow other people to have diverse opinions. And it varies.
Yeah.
There's times where I feel like that's true. And then there are many times where I feel like it is not true. I am of the opinion that you don't blindly follow any one philosophy.
I 100%
and that's a
agree.
big thing for me. You know,
Yes.
I have lots of friends who have made statements that are very like generic and like very hard to defend. So like, let's say, I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say somebody says, vote blue no matter who. Okay? Just a saying that I've heard before. Not
Sure.
something I have a strong opinion about negatively or positively. Okay?
Yeah.
The thing is, when you make a statement like that, you're blindly following an entire organization for only one reason, because they happen to support this organization. And it's very hard for me to do that. There are players on the Green Bay Packers I do not like.
Sure. Yeah.
I do not think that they're all good people.
No, and there's
Just
gonna be
because I cheer for the
players-
sports team
Right.
doesn't mean that I want to see this guy make more money. He might be a jerk. I might be happy if they traded him.
Yeah, there's going to be players on other teams that you actually really cheer for, though, too.
Yes.
That aren't on your team.
Yes.
And that's okay, too.
And for me, like I said, it does boil down to personal choice and personal philosophy. There are people that I like on all sides of the spectrum when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
That
Oh, gosh, yeah.
allow me the opportunity to kind of follow my heart, if you want to be romantic about it.
Aw.
I think, for the most part, in spite of what Facebook tells us,
Oh, gosh.
our friends are pretty willing to accept us, even if we feel differently about things. There are times where they come off differently, where they don't seem that way. I have friends who are extremely liberal. I have friends who are extremely conservative. And there are times where I will make a statement where they're like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And they agree with me, but they don't but I don't necessarily agree with literally everything they say.
Oh, no,
And we're
definitely
cool,
not.
and
Yes.
it's fine.
And that's okay. I think the key to me, and we can get it into details, but overarchingly is that if I can have a completely different opinion than someone else, and over there, the fourth person can have a completely different opinion than the rest of us. And if we're okay with agreeing to disagree,
Yes.
then we're
my
fine.
goodness, it goes a long
it's
way.
the no, I'm right, I'm going to tell you why I'm right and you're wrong. That's when it's no longer about the philosophy. It's about the not being able to compromise and recognize that you don't all have to agree.
Well, and we're talking about opinions here.
Right. But
Going back to the
some
football-
people think that their
Yes.
opinions are
Are
facts.
facts. Well, or they feel like there's only one right answer.
Correct.
Would be
Correct.
maybe more
Yes.
appropriate. You know, and
Yes.
this is, you know, going back to the football
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
analogy, you know, I just feel like just because I might be happy if my team wins a game doesn't automatically mean that I'm happy that your team lost their game,
Yeah, that's
or that
fair.
I'm not here to enjoy football, or that I'm not here to be your friend and watch your team play.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a balance there, and I think it does come down to not necessarily being open-minded. It's not that I have to then support your
No.
differences. I don't have to agree
You just have
with
to
you.
accept that there are
I
differences.
just have to allow for differences.
That's it.
You can cheer for someone else.
Sure.
It doesn't actually hurt me if you do.
No.
There's no actual harm
That's
being
the
done.
interesting thing. So I grew up in a household that my parents don't really care about football, and my husband could give a
Sure.
crap about football.
I keep going
so,
back
like,
to that, but
I'm
yeah.
the one that actually enjoys watching football. Like, I've been to Bears games. I'm not sure if my husband has ever been to a Bears
Sure,
game because
sure.
I enjoy watching football. I also enjoy watching basketball, which he could give a crap about too.
That's too bad.
so-
Basketball is fun.
Right? So, anyways, like when it was the NCAA tournament, I was the one that was like,
Yes.
oh, it's the championship game tonight. Like,
should
here's
watch.
who's in it.
Yeah, we should
I
watch.
talked to you about it, not to my
Yes, of course
husband
we
about
did,
it.
because we have to talk about the devil,
Right?
also known
I
as
know,
Bill Self.
But so, like, you and I discussed the NCAA
Yes,
basketball.
thank you. I enjoyed
my
that very
husband
much.
could care less. But
No, mine
I
doesn't
grew
either.
up in a household that was divided, not my household, but our family, Sox fans versus Cubs fans.
Ah.
So we're from the South Side, and my father was a big White Sox fan.
Sure.
Now, my cousin and my mom's, like, brothers are North Siders. And so they are 100% Cubs fans.
Cubs fans,
Like, there is
okay.
no... And so at some points in my life, there was some, discontent
Conflict, yes.
between them. And I feel like, I mean, we're family and it doesn't matter. Like, we'll always be family and they're fine. But, like, there are some people that I have actually witnessed at games that, like, just hate each other because they root for the other team. Like, and that's enough for
Yep.
some people to just be like,
Yes.
we can't be friends. And I'm like, it's a sport. Like, it's okay. But there are some
Yes.
people that truly, like,
I-
take it to another level.
I find Sox fans and Cubs fans to be almost the most fascinating
Right?
example of this hostility that seems almost completely unfounded, in my opinion. So if I had to classify myself, I would say that I am a Cubs fan because I was in a family of Cubs fans. We did go to Cubs games. I never went to a White Sox game until I think at some point maybe we went with Girl Scouts once or something. I don't
yeah.
remember, but it was older. I was older.
I mean,
when
I went to Sox games my whole life.
Sure.
So, and then I didn't go to a Cubs game until I was older. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was the opposite.
That was just, and I don't really, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how my parents and my brother
became Cubs
fans because we grew up on the South Side, and my father and my mother grew up on the South
Yeah,
Side.
so who knows?
My father actually in the city, like, so I'm kind of surprised that it went
no
down that
idea.
way, but it did.
Yeah.
And I think it's just extremely fascinating how much Cubs fans and Sox fans hate each other, being that they don't directly compete with each other. Like, it makes more sense to me
They're
for
not
Bears
even in the
fans
same
and
division. Like,
Packers fans
they
to hate.
literally they play each other because it's marketable, which is why they play each other.
Yes.
But they don't.
Or hypothetically, the only other time they're ever going to play each other is in the World Series.
If they're
And
both amazing. Yeah.
And if you want to hate them when they're in the World Series, I'm cool with that.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah.
You know?
But until then, they have very little effect
But
on
this
each other.
this is a very controversial opinion you and I are sharing right now.
is.
We have people listening that are like, "No, you're wrong.
Yeah, well,
this is a
totally.
big deal.
That is
this
totally
is a problem.
true.
I
Yeah.
disagree completely. This could be the deal breaker for them.
Yes.
And for those of you who aren't Cubs or White Sox fans, you're listening to this and you're kind of probably
What?
baffled by why that's
This
such
is
a problem.
thing? Yeah.
Like,
no,
why
it
is it
is
such a big deal?
If you know, you know. It's a thing. Yeah.
And here, I'm gonna put the cherry on top of the sundae for those of you who are gonna write us off forever because we just said it's not a big deal. And I'm gonna tell you that I will cheer for whichever Chicago team is in the World Series.
Oh, I
if
will too.
One of them is.
Yeah,
Gladly.
I've been to as I've gotten older. Like, I have friends that are Cubs fans, and I've been to both. I've probably been to more Cubs games in the last few years than I have been to Sox games. Actually, with our family, like with my parents and stuff, I've been to far more Sox games. But I will cheer for whoever. Yeah, whoever. Even if they're on TV, I will, as long as they're not playing each other, I will cheer for the other team. But I'll do that, like, I don't hate Green Bay, but we're not a big football team.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's I hear that a lot. Like,
yeah.
a lot of people who just aren't football fans, they
Yeah.
don't really have an opinion on
Yeah.
Green Bay or the Bears or anybody.
I'd love to go to Lambeau. I mean, it just, like, I'd like to see it. There's tons of history and stuff up there.
I would
so,
also
like,
love to do that. That is on my trip, like, bucket list, if you will, for my kids, because they do an event close to the beginning of the school year, close to the beginning of football season starting, called Family Night, where you actually go into the stadium and you watch the team do, like, drills and
that's
scrimmage
cool.
and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be very intimate for an experience, and it's supposed to be very fun and enjoyable. And I would love to go
Oh, for sure.
with my kids. I want them to get a little bit older because even though they're not really Packers fans, football just isn't that interesting to them quite yet. And I know my one son is 10, almost 11, so he's getting there.
He's getting there.
But football's kind of slow moving compared to like basketball, like we were talking about. And let's not even talk about how slow baseball is, because
I can't watch it on TV. I literally
our
can't.
last few listeners will
just be
finally
gone
leave because
I
diss
enjoy
baseball.
going to sporting events. If someone invites me to a sporting event, I don't even care who's playing.
Oh yeah, no,
I will go.
I love going to baseball games.
Going, but I cannot watch baseball on TV. It's as bad as watching golf on TV for me. I just can't.
So long.
Now basketball is fast paced. I will watch that.
My kids had never watched basketball, basically ever. And we watched some of the NCAA tournament this year because my older son had written letters to some of the coaches as an assignment at school. And so he was invested because he wanted to watch those teams.
Okay, I get it.
One of his teams was Illinois, which was
they were out,
super cool because I went to Illinois.
Totally. They won one and then they were out early.
So we watched the game that they won, which was a jam-packed thrill ride where they were down the entire game and came back and won it with 25 seconds left. They had never had the lead the entire game.
This is why basketball is fun to watch.
Wasn't that fun? It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most college basketball games are like that.
Most really are.
There aren't a ton of blowouts.
No.
There's always back and forth. My son, who was watching the game with me, was gloomy the entire game because Illinois was down the entire game. Not by a lot. No. There were times where they were down by 8 or 10.
Right, but then they were down by 2.
Then they were down by 3 at times, or 4 or 2, like you said. And he didn't really grasp the fact that this could come over
back anytime,
at any moment.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this game is not over until it's over.
That's what I love about basketball, though.
Yes.
Like, it's totally... we're a hockey family, so we watch hockey. But I also feel like hockey is somewhat fast-paced, too.
It is. I enjoy watching hockey, and I'm not, like, a hockey fan, traditionally.
And my kids don't understand all the rules, but they like going... Like, they've been to a ton of hockey games. Like, they went to a Blackhawks game this season, so we all went.
That's great.
But they like going to... They've never been to a Major League Baseball game. They've been to minor league baseball games. I think they like the fanfare more than they like watching the game. Because there's hot dogs and stuff to look at and all that stuff. They like that, and that's actually why I like going to baseball games too. Like,
I know,
all
right?
The stuff.
Going to the beer line and shouting at the peanut guy.
It's not as much even about the game as it is about everything else. Anyways, I'm totally bringing us off track. But
yes, so yes, we would like to go to some more live sports events, guys.
But for me,
if anyone wants to give me tickets to a baseball game,
I will happily go with whoever is playing. There are very few things that my philosophy or what I feel, if people don't agree with me, will truly dictate whether we can be friends or not. There are some. So people's opinions on kids with disabilities or how they treat special needs. Depending on what your beliefs are, I've heard people use slurs and references and things that they think are fine and take no problem with making fun of people who have disabilities. Those people will never be my people. Like,
I think
there's
that's
my
reasonable.
line. Like,
and it's reasonable for you to put it that way, where you say that's where you draw the line. Yeah. They probably have friends who don't have that line.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, and everybody has...
That's their prerogative. Yep. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but that is what they will allow. And you know what is going to work for you. And I feel the same way. Yeah. My friends and family that feel differently than I do about sports teams, about politics, about... It's cool.
If I didn't get along with all the people that I don't agree with politics, I wouldn't get along with my parents.
Who would you be friends
I wouldn't
with?
get along with, like,
I know.
Very small handful of people. So I can't let that dictate actual interactions with people.
No, you make the distinction, though, like, for example, people's attitudes about disabilities and special needs and things like that falls into a similar category as political beliefs in the sense that one can argue that if you're advocating for a certain group of individuals and you go the other direction, and so far as to say, why should anyone advocate for this group of individuals? You get to choose what group of individuals really you feel strongly about. I do think that it is somewhat a political philosophy to feel that way, only in the sense that we have society advocating in different directions for things.
And I would probably feel differently if I had, and this is probably bad on me, but if I had close ties with someone who was of a different demographic of individuals. So if I had an LGBTQ, I'm screwed that up for somebody, I'm sure. There's too many letters. But if I had someone who, in my family, and I was, involved with somebody who was completely anti-gay marriage, anti-rights, anti-adoption rights, anti-whatever.
This would be more of a forefront issue for you.
If there was someone in my immediate family, and maybe there will be someday. Right now, it's based off of the people that are close to me, which I think makes sense. And I'm not saying...
Like I said, these are personal choices.
Exactly. And I'm not saying I don't personally advocate for, equality, but I won't feel as strongly to completely cut ties with someone who has an opposite opinion of me for something that I guess doesn't affect me directly. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it sound great. I will definitely still stand up for the rights that I believe in, but...
I'll put it into perspective and say that I read an article recently that was written by a woman whose daughter is a competitive swimmer.
Okay.
And this was discussing the transgender athlete question.
Okay.
And she put it this way. She said that if you are not a woman in competitive swimming, or you are not the parent of a woman in competitive swimming,
then your opinion really doesn't matter.
Why are you even registering an opinion in this matter?
That's fair.
And have you even interacted with people who fall into that category of women in competitive swimming or parents of women in competitive swimming? How do you even know how they feel about this matter?
You don't.
And I think that really kind of drives the point home. It's that, why are you fighting something that doesn't really affect you at all? You can't make that argument for some things. People who feel very strongly about the environment can always make the argument that the environment impacts all of us. I respect that.
Sure.
But
there's a lot of things that don't directly impact.
If you are not a female athlete, why would you want to go to war over this issue?
That has no effect on you whatsoever.
In any way.
Yeah.
Allow the individuals affected by it to affect that decision. Let them take the discussion the direction they want the discussion to go.
Yeah.
And you're not stopping them, but you're also not harming the situation.
Yeah.
And I think that in some ways that's the best thing we can do. Like I said earlier, a lot of these philosophies are personal choice. My philosophy on almost everything is that I kind of like to just be left alone. Okay? My whole attitude is almost entirely based on being left alone.
Just let me do my thing.
I'm not going to hurt you.
I'm not going to bother you.
You don't have to hurt me.
Don't bother me.
We can just be simpatico.
All just get along.
Let's just be cool.
Yeah.
Just don't trespass on my property and everything will be fine.
Fair, yeah. I feel like there's certain people that feel very strongly about things that I don't understand why they feel strongly about. Like that, this doesn't impact your life. Why do you have such a strong opinion? And everyone is entitled to their own opinions, which is totally fine. But yeah, there are only a few things that, whether we have a differing opinion, it would actually affect my likelihood to have a relationship with you of some
and
sort.
I mean, maybe it boils down to, would this offend me or not?
Yeah.
And I think that's also all right. And I think the moral of the story is, treat your friends with respect.
Yeah.
Allow them to share what's important to them. And if you feel differently, that's okay, as long as you're respectful. Unless they're sharing something that makes you feel disrespected.
Yeah.
Then you got to make a choice.
Yep.
You have to decide.
Yeah.
I don't believe I have ended a friendship with somebody directly because our philosophies clashed.
Yeah.
We've had that episode. Friends have gone by the wayside. They've come and go for a variety of... I've had falling out.
Yeah,
with
for sure.
Friends. It's not even just that.
Not because of you guys disagreed on some
But
general
no, it wasn't
idea.
because I said, oh, this is the most important issue to me, and they said, well, I feel the opposite about that, and then now we have to hate each other.
Right. No, I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Certainly not. But yeah, so I hope that, we've been enlightening. I hope that it wasn't my goal to get you to not hate the Green Bay Packers, so that's mission accomplished.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to come away from this conversation just feeling better about the fact that we get to be, we're adults, know, and we get to be.
We have our own.
You get to choose your friends.
Free will. You get to choose your own thoughts.
And And you can focus on being grateful for the people who care about you, as long as you're not too emotionally invested a different way. I guess, right?
Yeah, you can appreciate people even if they're different or if they have different philosophies.
Yes.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we're going to finish this up and drink our vanilla rye Dobroy Noki. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. It's a barrel-aged imperial stout. And let's see, Russian imperial stout in Whiskey Acre rye whiskey barrels with an added dose of Tahitian vanilla beans.
I was going to say, I know you're not going to believe me when I say this. It smells like vanilla. It smells
luscious
like
stout with notes of toasted marshmallows, smooth whiskey, and rye spice.
It's a marshmallow.
Marshmallow? Is that what you're smelling?
It's probably vanilla, but because of the combination of flavors, it's coming off as a marshmallow.
It's totally coming off as marshmallow. I smell the marshmallow more than I taste the marshmallow, though.
Yes.
I taste the rye.
I love rye whiskey barrel aged beers, by the way. It's kind of like a secret niche area for me.
I think so. A lot of ryes are a little bit sweeter in terms of actual rye.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll just drink a rye because it tastes like dessert. Mm-hmm. But I think it gives it a little bit more of that sweet flavor to it. But it's distinctive. Rye is distinctive to me.
I believe so. Whenever anybody is like, oh, this is a rye barrel-aged beer, I'm always just like, oh, I know what that means.
Yeah, you can
differentiate. You can point it out.
I also feel like ryes have a more flavorful barrel and less of a burn to their barrel sometimes.
Well, yes. So. We talked about this a lot more 2 years ago when we started the podcast, the whole bourbon barrel-aged beer thing. At times can be syrupy and can be very, what was the word you just used?
I said that has that alcohol burn.
The burn.
To it.
Yeah, the burn. And for me, for the longest time, that was just completely undesirable. Mm-hmm. I just felt like the syrupy was like making my teeth hurt, and the burn was just like
too much.
Making my
like
throat
in my
hurt.
throat. It's like I'm old. I'm gonna have indigestion later if I keep drinking this. I don't want to do this to myself.
I don't want to have to take 2 Tums after I drink this beer and sleep on my left side.
Yes, exactly. But I feel like the rye aged beers are less of that burn to me.
Absolutely.
And a little bit different, more flavor to it. It's just a different flavor. Don't get me wrong. The barrel-aged regular bourbon barrel-aged also has a flavor to it, but this is just different. It's more distinctive to me.
Well, and let's keep in mind, unlike some other stouts, this is a Russian Imperial stout.
Yes.
So also gives this a totally different flavor.
Yep, totally true.
I really like Russian Imperials. I've always really liked Russian Imperial stouts. My husband is not a fan.
Oh,
it's not his favorite style. I like them because I think they're a good mixture. Mm-hmm. You get a little bit of like a creamy, like a milk stout.
But not,
But more of a zing.
Yes. I feel like the milk stouts are more... Relaxed is not a way to describe beer.
Well, we've used the word subtle before, but that's not the right word either. So I think Russian Imperials, and I'm going to go the other way and use the wrong word, but in the other direction, have almost a harsher flavor in the sense that like the flavors are a bit more over the top.
They're more
maybe,
pronounced.
Or pronounced is great. It's just maybe it's simpler. Maybe it's just that the beer itself is a simpler flavor.
You just know that you're going to get that
more
flavor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just really...
Mm-hmm. I like this. I actually like this a lot.
This is good.
I actually like the barrel aged, and I like everything about this. So this is this beer I actually really enjoy.
Tangled Roots, man. You kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not going to lie. kind of had a similar experience to you when you went down there and you kind of got a little, you didn't say disappointed, but I was a little bummed out with the beer choices I made.
Yes.
They were just okay.
Agreed. The beer choices I had when I went to lunch were just okay.
Yeah.
Like, I actually didn't even finish one of them.
Yeah.
I couldn't get past the aftertaste. I did not have these two.
No,
So
I've
this
never had
is-
these two
So
beers.
this is
I-
different than what I drank there.
I thought Devil's Paint Box was the IPA I drank, but I think I drank the New England that they make.
Gotcha. Yep.
And because you and I talked about this, we're on this like little New England kick where we drink them when we find them.
Yes.
And that was what was the case for me. And it was
Gotcha.
summer and it was hot outside, so
totally.
of course I
Perfect.
was going to
Yeah, of
drink a
course
New
you're gonna
England
drink New
IPA.
England. Yeah.
And I wasn't like super thrilled with it. It
Yeah.
was fine, but it wasn't great. New Englands are so easy to not be good. Like, it's so easy to make a not good one, in my opinion.
True. I really
don't know how
love
else
New
to-
England, so but
because of that, I'm real picky about them.
Totally get
I
it.
kind of
Totally
want
get
them
it.
to be perfect. They just got to be
Yeah.
that perfect balance of like creamy and a little bit the hazy, citrusy flavor.
Citrusy, smooth,
and if you put all those
mouthfeel,
things
all those
together,
but if you miss one of them, it's an easy thing to fall off the
and
wagon.
it's boring
on, so,
then.
Yeah.
It's a mundane.
But these two beers that we drank tonight are better than all of the ones I had there.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
they have good beers, you just have to find them.
Yes, I agree
But
100%.
the Devil's Paint Box is one they make all the time. So that's
Nice.
something that you'll always get. I don't know about the
thing
vanilla.
Lauren couldn't pronounce. What's it called?
Dobronoki, I'm sure that's wrong. Whatever, I don't know what it is. I'm guessing they don't have the barrel aged all the time, but I think they do have the Russian Imperial regular.
Okay.
Regularly.
See, I wonder if I had this as a regular
And not the
Russian
barrel
Imperial
aged.
because
Maybe.
I'm very drawn
Yeah.
to Russian Imperials.
Could be.
And you would think that I would order that if I saw it on the menu.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just like
Just okay for that one. Yeah.
yeah, kind
I like
of ordinary.
I do like the barrel aged.
But
So
this tastes really good. This I really like.
I like it. I will happily try some ones that I have not had next time
I agree.
around.
I'm definitely
I'm hoping
up for...
that West Coast one comes back because I wanted to try it and I did not.
I hope so too.
So, all right, we'll take a lunch date sometime.
That'd
All
be great.
right, this was great. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, and we will talk again next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week and cheers to you all.